Welcome back to the Wizard Shop. It's time to play detective again today. I have a question for you guys based on what this car came in with. And let's see if you guys get it right. Let's get started. So this is a 2006 Mini Cooper S, and it came in with a check engine light and some surging issues. It also has a code stored in the computer. Now, I know you guys are excited to see the project that's behind me. That will be revealed on Thursday. You guys are going to really like that. You don't want to miss out. Now back to the Mini Cooper. We've actually worked on this car before, and we did several things for the customer, and it's been great. Except for just recently, he's had some surging issues. His check engine light came on, and we scanned for codes, and we found a code. So the code is P1688 mass airflow calculation error. There are three things I'm going to list and what could be wrong with this car. See if you guys can guess what it is. We'll take a look at the car and we'll come back to it. Number one, could it be the mass airflow sensor itself? Number two, could it be a really bad vacuum leak? And number three, could it be an issue with the PCV system or the crankcase ventilation system? Now, I'll let you guys think about that. You can place in the comments what you think it is. We'll go ahead and take a look at this really sweet little Mini Cooper, and then we'll revisit that at the end. So let's take a look at this sweet little engine. Has some Nology hot wires on it. It is the supercharged version of this engine. In later years it goes to turbo. This has the John Cooper Works air filter housing, probably some sort of an upgraded air intake on it. And these are really fun to drive. They're really good power, and I love to hear the supercharger whine on it. They are really fun to drive. Other than the code I just told you guys about, there's really nothing wrong with the engine. But we're going to go ahead and put it on the lift and inspect it and check it out anyways. You like the front, Mrs. Wizard? It looks like a frog.
It does look like a frog.
Like a wide-mouthed frog going ribbit.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a cute little car. They're really neat. Looking at the wheels, I've seen some of these in accidents, and when you get into an accident, it always goes in either front or rear, goes right into your wheel and just crushes everything. They don't ever survive very well in accidents, especially ones like Elliot Alphys was in his Z4. This definitely wouldn't survive that. When we look down the side, it's in good shape. This customer hasn't had it very long. They just bought it, oh, probably several months ago. It's a little dirty, but the paint's in good shape. You can see it's a Mini Cooper S. And again, like I mentioned, when I get into an accident, look at the space there, guys. It's just, get into a small fender bender and it's right into your tire. Breaks the axles, control arms, everything. Same thing with smart cars, they're just like that too. We can see on this side it's in good shape. Cute little car. We'll go ahead and take a look in the interior and then we'll lift it up. So this one has 26,000 miles on it. It smells new in here, a nice leather smell. When we did this video before, it was just as nice on the inside. I'll let Mrs. Wizard give you guys the tour.
This definitely is a cool, iconic, different design than we see in many other cars. We can see that the round display, there is no infotainment system, there is no electronic buttons. You get what you get. So even though it seems like it's maybe backwards in the technology world, it actually looks really cool and very retro with these circular gauges. Again, got Mini Cooper on the steering wheel and easy controls there. That's about the extent of buttons other than the radio system. And the really cool switches, almost like simple toggle switches. This is a 6-speed manual with a really cool stick shift. It has leather seating with really nice light gray piping along the edges. And the door panel that over there by the Wizard is really, really interesting. It's got that really cool oval design to it. Even though it is all plastic, it still looks really cool. As we move up to the headliner, it looks fabulous. No fingerprints, no streaks, a little bit is starting to come down on that one side, but overall, as I pan around, it looks good. Now this is an interesting feature. Being that I'm tall, I'm used to having a visor this way. I'm not used to having a visor on this side to go down. Interesting. It's stationary, it doesn't snap off, it doesn't extend, it doesn't move other than just go up and down. But when you're tall, and those little guys, even if they have extender arms that can go out, sometimes they aren't long enough. That feature is not option on the passenger side. We have just got the grab bar. So that is a neat feature on this side of the vehicle. It said the back seat is right there at the edge of the car. So even though maybe the car is safe in an accident, it doesn't mean that there's a lot of space. And so if it ever gets into that accident, it could easily total the car just for the damage it does to the car itself, not to the people inside. Because it does appear that there is quite a bit of space back here, being as small as this vehicle is. Wizard, let's get this in the air.
Let's do it. Okay, we'll take a look under here and see if we find any leaks. We'll start here at the core support area where the radiators are, and it's nice and dry in there. The transmission is nice and dry, the oil pan's nice and dry. I do see a little bit of seepage from a hose here, but it's nothing too bad. Looks like a small coolant drip or something. We'll let the customer know about that. You can see a little fan here. It has electric power steering. It has a little fan to cool the control unit on it. Check the wheels and brakes here. Brakes look good. Nothing loose. CV shafts look good. Ride height sensor is intact. And our sway bar link is good. We'll go over to this one. Nothing loose, good brakes. CV shaft's good. Sway bar link is good. And no ride height sensor over here. Everything looks good there. We'll look from back here. And here's the power steering rack. We'll look for some leaks that are going on there, and I don't really see anything. Here's our exhaust. Move on back. Looks like stock exhaust for the most part. Here's our gas tanks. Our gas tank, I should say. One big tank. We'll move on back here. We'll check these wheels. Brakes are good. Nothing's loose. Sway bar link. Good. Pads are good there. Nothing loose. Sway bar link's good. The rear struts are good. They're not blown out. With such low mileage, that's not surprising. It does have a Borla exhaust here on both sides. It has a nice little rumble to it. The tires look fairly new, actually very new, so we don't need to recommend tires. So other than that, the small seepage we saw, we'll look into that. Go ahead and get this thing back on the ground. So we checked the car over. Other than the small seepage, everything looks good. Now we're back to the check engine light and the surging issue. Out of the three problems I gave you, or probabilities, which one did you guys come up with? Now I gave you, remember, number one was a mass airflow sensor issue, number two was a large vacuum leak, and number three was a PCV or crankcase ventilation problem. The answer to that problem is none of the above. None of them. You say, hey, Car Wizard, that's not fair. Yes, it is fair, because when a car comes into the shop, it's not going to tell you what's wrong with it. And it's going to be presenting codes that throw you in all different directions. The issue we found with this car, even though the code says mass airflow sensor calculation error, it has nothing to do with a mass airflow sensor whatsoever. It has nothing to do with vacuum leaks. In fact, it has nothing to do with engine management at all. Let's open the hood and take a look. So our problem is the supercharger pulley. This is an aftermarket one that was put on this car. The original pulley that was stock on this car actually had gone bad and had wore down the shaft just a tiny bit, just enough that when this aftermarket pulley was installed, which I'll show you guys how this works. Let me get all these little bolts off. There's no keyway or no splines or nothing on these. All they do is clamp onto the pulley. You put this on the supercharger shaft and you can see it's got slots so that when the pulley is drawn onto it, it clamps down onto the shaft really hard. You can see the little shaft right there. It goes right underneath the tensioner. And you can see that the original pulley had rubbed on it pretty hard. The problem is even though we could clamp this as hard as it could go, as tight as it could go, it still was slipping on the shaft. When under a hard pull, when he's trying to get some power out of this engine, this thing was just spinning on the shaft. So that made the computer think, oh, there's a calculation, there's something with a mass airflow sensor. We should be seeing this much air coming in with the supercharger, but we're not. And it's nothing to do with electronics. It's purely 100% mechanical. Nothing electrical at all. Those are one of those issues that can throw a mechanic for a loop. Well, maybe it needs new spark plugs. I've seen this scenario so many times. I've had it to the shop down the road. They got new plugs, new airflow sensor, new oxygen sensor. They put new this and this and that on it. It still runs bad. It's just a pulley. You have to really know what you're doing when some of these weird scenarios come in. This is kind of a strange one. We have ordered an upgraded pulley called the Alta 2.0, which has very strong clamping force. It's actually designed for this very scenario when the original pulley has ground down some of the shaft just enough to where these pulleys won't work. It's got actually Allen bolts that clamp down on it. And they guarantee that it solves this problem. We've got it on order, and as soon as it arrives, we'll install it, and that will take care of the problem.
So, Car Wizard, if everything was pointing to the mass airflow sensor, how did you figure out it was a pulley?
I went and road tested it, and when I was giving it acceleration, I expected to hear the whine, the supercharger whining on this, because I've driven this car before, and it does make a really nice whine. But it would go, it was actually fluctuating. It's because the pulley was just intermittently gripping the shaft. And then I knew a mass airflow sensor is not going to have the authority or the power to tell the supercharger whether or not it should engage. That is purely mechanical. I knew it was. I had Junior Mitt check it out. He pulled the belt off. Boom. We could just spin the pulley on the shaft. I'm surprised it didn't come off, but luckily it didn't. This is also a scenario to be careful when you go to an auto parts store and say, hey, can you scan my codes? And they hook the scanner up and it says mass airflow sensor calculation error. And the parts guy is like, oh, bro, you need a mass airflow sensor. It says right here. They sell you one, you put it in, it doesn't solve anything.
And then let me guess, Wizard, being that it's an electrical part, they're not going to take it back.
Correct. Once you've installed it, it's yours. You're not going to get a return. You could take it to an inexperienced mechanic or a backyard mechanic, the family guy who fixes cars in the backyard. He's going to read the codes. He's not going to go any further. He's going to try the mass airflow sensor. Maybe it's the coil pack, or maybe it's the plugs. Bro, you need some new injectors. They're just not cutting it. I have seen this scenario so many times. I knew when this came in, I knew I needed to do a video for you guys because this can take an untrained mechanic down several different paths that are so expensive, and it comes down to it was just a mechanical pulley. Well, we got this in it, and this in it, and that in it. There's actually a shop not far from here that the owner is, I don't want to be mean to the guy, he's a really nice guy, but he's not that very much experienced from my take. He actually brings me cars from time to fix because it's just at his wit's end. I've got this sensor, I've got this done, I replaced the injectors, I did this, I did that. It still won't start, it still won't do this. I'm like, wow, you replaced so many parts. It's like, what data do you have? What's the data? What are the readings? I don't know, I don't have any. It's like, and you guys know from watching these videos, I don't make a move until I have hard facts, black and white data. Once I see that, then I say, okay, this is the direction we need to go. I don't say maybe it's that, let's try it. There's no try it in this shop anyway. It's we do it because the data directs us in that path. So I'm going to get a pulley. It's like $100 or so, and then the labor to put it on, $200 or so. It's not hard to do. This guy's going to be back on the road. He's going to be really happy because he's going to be like, I'm fully expecting $1,000 or more. $200, I'm back on the road. Done. So it'll have diagnosis, it'll have the replacement of the pulley and the price of the pulley. You get that on the bill, and that's it. So I really love it when a customer or another mechanic, a local mechanic, comes in and they've tried so many things, and in this scenario I hand them the pulley and put it in their hand and say, that's it. And they just in silence, their jaw drops. It's like, well, sorry. I mean, I'm sorry it didn't turn out that you could find it, but it was very simple to find. Speaking of things that are really sweet like this car, there's going to be a series on this car. Like I said, it's going to come out on Thursday. You guys don't want to miss it. It's really sweet. You guys have seen it in the background through different videos. It's a mystery car or this or that. It won't be a mystery on Thursday, and you're really going to like it. Mrs. Wizard and I are going to be in Florida this weekend. We're going to Concours d'Elegance and Amelia Island, and I'm going to be a judge for Cars and Coffee on Saturday. You guys, if you're in that area, you're going to see me and Rich Rebuilds, Alex, Legit Street Cars. A lot of us are going to be there. I imagine Hoovy is going to be one of the main judges for the Concours d'Elegance. Really sweet time. I really enjoy getting invited to it to go, and I enjoy just going. It's really fun, guys. We're going to do a video on that. You guys will see for yourself how really sweet the show is. So if you're curious what kind of tools we use in the shop, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. All the tools I use in the shop are listed for sale there, and we get a small cut. We really appreciate that. And make sure you hit the subscribe button. Mash it really hard because you don't want to miss this project. Thanks for watching.